What's up, everybody? How's it going? And welcome to this episode of the Rant podcast. We haven't done one of these in a hot minute, and I actually have a couple of these lined up for you guys, so I hope you guys are ready. I hope you guys will enjoy, because it's not often that I just sit there and rant on a specific topic, and the ones that I have coming up are definitely ones that I think people want to create discussion about because it involves creative process in the future for future endeavors, not necessarily current endeavors, but just in general. So, without further ado, I want to get into a couple of quick announcements and then we'll get into business. So, first things first, in the announcements section, the first thing I'm going to let you guys know about is number one, we are not going to have a video this week. We have some things going on in our lives right now, and we're not able to film at this stage in the game. And hopefully you guys will appreciate the upcoming episodes that are coming, because these are pretty much long overdue episodes about the 240 and some other things that we have going on behind the scenes. If we do have an episode, it will be later in the week. So I guess keep fingers crossed, because we're waiting on some items to be shipped. It always sucks when you have to wait for the postman to catch up with the rest of the world, because, we're trying to move things forward, and it just kind of sucks. So that's the first announcement. First announcement, sorry. The second one is also the return of the Evo is very much approaching. So stay tuned for that. There's some great things coming with that, and we're really excited for it. I hope you guys are as well. And without much more delay, let's get into today's discussion. So, if you don't live under a rock, if you watch Netflix, and if you are into cars, you have most likely heard about the show called Hyperdrive. It's something that was put on by Charlize Theron and Rutledge Wood, which anyone who's watched the American Top Gear knows who that is. It's one of the co-hosts for. I'll start off like this. What we're talking about is some of what happened in the show, my thoughts on it, and where the show could potentially go in the future, or at least where I think it should go in the future, because there's some things that I have to point out that just were not well handled, or at least were not the best ideas, but we appreciate where they were going with it. So, my opening statement is Hyperdrive is a lot of fun. It's a competition between varying types of drivers from around the world coming together to participate in this borderline wipeout levels of obstacle course. There are some skill sections where you have to drift into targets, and then there are some speed sections where you have to shoot a gap and try not to hit a closing wall. That was called the forced perspective, if I remember right, which I really liked that one, because it just showed who knew their car the best going through that intersection. It was so much fun to watch that. There were also some actual time attack shootouts for who would stay in as the wild card, and without giving away too much more of the show, it was a lot of fun to watch. It was very enjoyable. I found myself stopping what I was doing, because I often watch Netflix while I'm working on videos or just other stuff behind the scenes. And I actually found myself stopping to watch because I was too busy cheering on specific characters on the show. I was with what I was doing in front of me. Maybe not the most productive way of doing things, but that is how that went down, so it is what it is, I guess. Now, a lot of people have had varying opinions about this show. David Patterson did a video where he talked about it and shared his opinions on it, and he really enjoyed it, which is kind of what helped color my opinion into watching the show. I tend to be the kind of person when it comes to TV shows where I want someone else's opinion, because I get very much wrapped up in what I'm watching. So when someone came out and said, you know what, if you're a car guy, you should watch this because you'll enjoy it for all the craziness that goes on, yeah, he was right, and I'm definitely glad that I did watch it, because it has me inspired to try and go out and build my own car to potentially somehow make it onto a show like that, or maybe even host my own show like that someday, Lord willing. It was really his opinion that helped color me into that direction. But then on the other side of the spectrum, you have people like Evan Shanks, who thought it was absolute cheeseball, according to the Twitter posts that he had put out. I unfortunately don't have screen grabs because I didn't think to do this. I didn't think I was going to make this episode, honestly, until after watching. I'm like, I got to talk about this. But nevertheless, like, his opinion kind of had me going, I wonder, like, what about this makes it kind of cornball? And if I'm honest with you, some of it is because of the fact that some of these obstacles, some of these challenges that they had on the show, honestly have nothing to do with cars and racing, and had everything to do with showmanship in the sense of, like, something that will look cool on camera or be something interesting and intriguing to watch, and less about actual competitive driving and skills behind the wheel. I think if anyone's watched the show, they know what I'm talking about when I say this, and that's the leveler. A lot of people have had a lot of comments about the leveler and how it ruined some of the track times that some of those people would have had, because some of them actually did lay down some really good times, but they were able to just somehow find an equilibrium with themselves in the car on this giant swinging bridge. I hate to say it, but like, the leveler would have been cool in something like, say, an off-road challenge where they were in Jeeps and SUVs trying to rough it out in the sticks. Like, that would be cool, because that's something that someone of that kind of driving skill would actually need to know. That way they don't tip themselves over, and if there's loose terrain, they don't accidentally, like, roll over, careen down a hill, all that fun stuff. So for myself, like, watching the leveler, like, yeah, it was cool to see people find the balance on it, but the fact that it honestly eliminated some very good competitors extremely early on was really kind of disappointing, because then, for me, I lost some of the guys that I would have enjoyed driving because of the fact that the stupid bridge thing was just that, a stupid bridge thing. If I were to openly say to people like Charlize Theron, who helped produce this and was very much shown on the show, if I were to be so bold as to say, find a different challenge. Maybe it's making a car stay balanced over, like, uneven surfaces where there are these large obstacles that the car is coming in contact with and has to crawl across or something. I don't know. Just something that actually uses the incredible skills that some of these drivers have, but are at speed, not at, here, let's, brutally destroy and damage things that are extremely expensive, like the clutch, because they often said on the show that they paved their own way to make this competition become a reality. Like, there's a one girl, and I want to say it was the first episode, where she went to go and race, and she did quite well, honestly, for a girl as young as she was. Her father sold her truck, or his truck rather, to pay for his plane ticket to make sure that he could be there to be the spotter for his daughter and all this. And I just look at it and go, like, number one, it's kind of icky if you're going to ask these people to be a part of your show and your competition, like, pay their way, something, like, make it worth their while to be there, kind of thing. But also, like, the fact that some of these people spent huge amounts of money, let's be honest, huge amounts of money, so that they could all be there, bring their cars there. Like, I'm aware of how much it costs to ship a vehicle from the other side of the world to the States, whether it's for a show or if it's to buy it. Like, shipping a car is not a cheap deal. So when people like Atsushi had to ship over his beautiful Toyota, I'm sitting there going, that had to cost money. And to hear them say on the show, oh, these people paid their way, like, I'm not sure if that's them trying to get an emotional grab or if that's an actual fact. If it's an actual fact, that's not cool. Producers, you should be helping pay their way, especially since some of those people make some decent money and could easily pay for something like that. Or on the flip side of the coin, if it's an emotional grab, don't lie to us. Okay? Some of us don't appreciate that. We'd rather be told the truth, and even if it's one that we don't like them actually having to pay, if that's the case, we'd rather just hear that, because we don't like being played with when it's a real thing. Like, we get it if it's a drama show, play with us, because that's what helps lead, the story sometimes. But when it comes to a reality, don't do that. That's just not cool. So getting back to the leveler after all of that, like, it was an expensive thing, and I know they spent a huge chunk of change to build it, but please find something else to be a challenge like that, because it's no, no. It was one thing when you had to drive up it, stop before the edge, because then it pushes your skill as the owner of the vehicle to get this car up a hill, very steep incline. Like, that was cool. But then when you had to sit there and try and balance the car on it, it just felt kind of corn dog, kind of dumb. Just didn't feel right, and it could very easily damage some very expensive and hard to replace things like, competition clutches and stuff like that. So, moving on from that, the other major gripe I would have to say is, and don't worry, stay tuned, because towards the end I'll start getting into the things that I really did like. I just want to get the cons out of the way first. It's the water cannon thing. I looked over some of the visuals from the cars, and it was an unnecessary danger. And if you've watched the show, I'm talking about Corinna's Mercedes getting absolutely smacked by what I can only assume was at least a ton of water straight onto the glass. I mean, they had to rush her to the hospital to make sure that she didn't have junk in her face because of the water completely destroying her windshield and getting that car messed up in ways I don't even know, because they didn't let us see a lot of that. It's just that, I don't care if there's a waiver involved, needlessly putting in something like that to make it more of a thrill, it doesn't work, because there's certain thrills that are safe and contained, like these people were expecting on a nice closed off course where they could just go wild and not worry about, say, police or anything like that. At least if you're into street stuff, you know what I'm saying. Like, it's one thing to have it set up like that, but then you go and add a thing that could potentially kill somebody if things didn't go right. Like, that just didn't sit well with me. I looked at some of that video, and I realized that, honestly, if she didn't have a cage and that car is positioned a little bit differently, that car could have taken on some body damage. Like, if you look at the video, you decide for yourself. It's my personal opinion. I can't prove it. I can't say it's a fact. But seeing that level of damage to that car, all because they wanted some really nifty little trick shtick thing there, right? It just didn't sit well with me. And I'm not talking about when they sprayed the water over the track to try and make it harder to see or land it or whatever. Like, that's fine. It's when you're dumping it straight onto a point where if a car stalls, like, they run the risk of getting smacked and clapped by all that. Like, that just... I'm glad they got rid of it after Corinna. And thankfully, she was the second driver. Barry On had to go first, and he was able to get away from it in time. But, just the idea that some of those cars, had they not had a cage, it just didn't sit well with me. Seeing that happen, there could have been, I want to say there was a couple of bends in the steel, but maybe that was just the way they built the cage. I don't know, because you don't really get to see the cage in her car until the accident, where you get to see a lot more of the interior, because they're trying to catch the drama of the moment and all that mess. Like, that just, like I said, there are certain aspects of videography that I really love, and there are some aspects where it's like, all right, now you're milking it to just try and build drama into the show, so you watch it, and it's just, that's not the way you go about it. Now, moving on to the pros, the things that I liked about the show. It was a blast to watch. Like I said earlier, I really enjoyed watching it while I was working on other things, to the level of I got distracted watching the thing while working on those things. It had so much drama built into trying to beat the times, or, like, for example, Francois, the French driver with the 200SX, aka an S12, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments section. Seeing that car, which was literally firing on only 5 cylinders through most of it, just go through all of it. Like, that was so much fun to watch. And then seeing his level of proficiency behind the wheel, absolutely incredible. Atsushi, the Japanese driver, Drift Sensei indeed. Incredible, incredible sportsmanship behind the wheel of his beautiful Toyota. There were also a few new rising stars that were on the show from around the world, which was really cool to watch. People that could definitely break out onto the drifting scene or whatever form of racing that they want to get into. Just, it's a really cool way to watch different levels of talent and skill be presented in a way that anyone who likes some form of adrenaline could probably watch. I sat there, yeah, I'm a car guy watching this, but I sat there and analyzed it from a different perspective and realized, like, even if you're not in the cars, like, just seeing what some of these people can do with vehicles. I mean, the French driver, forgive me, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, with the Charger, being able to put a car that size sideways and honestly successfully drift it is amazing talent. I honestly would throw him up there as one of the better drivers on that course solely for the fact that he can do that, and that's speaks a lot because it takes some mad skills just to go sideways and control it. And he's using something that is super heavy, probably the heaviest car on that show, to drift and to do some of these challenges. I mean, when I saw that he lost part of his control arm assembly right before the leveler on one of his runs, like, seeing that level of just grief just captures you with all the excitement of the show. And then seeing that, like, there's moments in it that definitely capture you in a way where it's like, dude, I feel that. Especially as someone who's had multiple cars blow on me or break down in bad ways and bad times and all that. Like, I get it. Being stranded on 95 because I blew a tire and can't change it because there's not enough room, and stuck waiting for 4.5 hours or whatever it was for a tow truck. Like, I get that. Or seeing a motor blow because something went wrong and you needed it to deliver and it just couldn't do it anymore. Like, those are things that we as car people watching the show could definitely relate to, and that's something that this show did really well, was the relatability. Being able to see both the joy and the excitement, but also the grief and the coming together around those people when that happened to be a sad moment where, like, say the car broke or when Corinna got beat up. Again, not trying to spoil too much. It's kind of hard, but not trying to spoil too much. All in all, pushing all of what I said aside, I want to know what your opinions are, first and foremost. So let us know down below if you've watched it and if you've stayed in this podcast for this long. I know normally I film myself doing this, but unfortunately, can't film today. It is what it is. Like I said, we got stuff going on. I gotta save that battery because I can't find my charger and it's not feeling great. But again, I definitely would recommend watching it. And for the producers of the show moving forward into another season, I would say mix up the course a bit. Don't let it be the same thing over and over again, because then, like, yeah, familiarity kind of breeds comfortability in the sense that people will know what they're getting when they watch. But if you're able to make, like, key significant changes or maybe get another facility entirely, like, that would make the show really compelling to watch, because now you're getting to see something new, something fresh every time. You're not stuck on the same monotonous cycle of, oh, and here's a drift zone, and now you have walk on water where you're drifting on water and you gotta stay on this path that's raised up and all this. Like, it's really cool, but at the same time, being able to mix it up, maybe do the entire course backwards or something, like, it would be very interesting to watch and see new challenges and a new layout and a new environment, and how that would affect the cars and how that would affect what people have to do for predicting what the next line is going to be to go around a corner or things like that. Like, it would definitely shake up the roster a bit and make it much more interesting to watch. And then if you can make enough seasons of this, bringing the champions back together to have the crown prince overall. Like, that would be really cool to see. We've seen it done with shows like Chopped, which is a Food Network show. They will often bring people on, or Iron Chef for people who are more familiar with some of the older TV content that's out there that's of that early competitive style. It would be very interesting to see, rising champs versus former champs and all that stuff. But again, the only way that happens is if people like you and I watch. And with that said, again, let me know what you guys think of the show down below. Have you watched it? If you have, did you like it? Was it interesting enough for you to sit through all 10 episodes of it? And if given the chance, would you participate? I think for myself and for the rest of the team here at Car Rant and my club, the Lone Sabres, I think we would all agree and say, yeah, if we could try, I think we would. I don't think anyone would turn down the opportunity to try and compete against other people in an unusual competition. I think it would be rather interesting to see how the vehicles we own would play out. I know for a fact, unless I had Kintsugi or Ian's S13, I know for a fact that Evo is not going sideways, because I'm pretty sure I would blow the transfer case or the diff or both trying to clutch kick that thing around a corner. I mean, whether or not it has all these new beautiful power upgrades or not, I just don't think it would have the gusto to do it. So either way, let me know what you guys think down below. Thank you all for listening in. I hope you guys enjoyed. And we'll see you next time. God bless you all, and peace.